Balsamic vinegar is a tree coming in your mouth.
Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
It is our basic human right to be fuck up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Hello, and welcome to Occultae Veritatis podcast, the Halloween special. I'm Ood Gallifrey, and in this special cult recording, I have distance recording with me,
Maggie.
Postal Poet.
Beowulf.
Rocky.
I'm Rental.
Humans are curious little species. Curiosity was essential to our early survival. We needed to look in deep, dark, mysterious places and notice patterns within to protect us. Humans who spotted a tiger hiding in tall grass would be more likely to survive to breed than those who didn't. But this curiosity about our surroundings that kept us safe came with a drawback. Now, we see monsters even when they aren't there due to our overactive imaginations. This happens more frequently in places less accessible to humans. The overgrown deep woods of forests, the rocky wilds of distant mountains, and the cold depths of lake, rivers, and oceans. Today, on OVPOD, we take a trip around the world, exploring some of the lesser-known lake monsters found around the globe. But first, some poison.
So, what's your poison?
Just want to point out that deep, dark, mysterious monster in my deep, dark, mysterious place was...
Is this where we say we danced under that name?
Or that it would make a good name for a punk band.
You know what? I don't even remember what strain I ordered. It's I think it's some type of sativa, but we learned in the cannabis episode that doesn't really mean anything, but it's green and lovely, and weed is weed, just like coffee is coffee, so 10 out of 10.
What's it like? Because as a government employee, I can't indulge.
Everything's really funny.
Also, the battle scenes in anime get more battle-y.
When I was in my previous lab, I would get high on Friday afternoons and just sit in bed by myself and giggle at shonen anime. You just struck a core memory with me, Ood.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Well, I don't need drugs. I can just get the same effect standing up fast, but...
Speaking of which, I am enjoying my one blonde roast coffee that I get a day because my doctor said so.
I have some blood of the innocent. It's okay. I don't think they're as innocent as they said they were.
Somebody was doing anal to preserve their virginity?
Yeah, like
what the hell?
They're always like, I have the blood of the innocent. I can taste the fact that you hate people.
Can you imagine what people would think when you say you have the blood of the innocent, to be like, you are a Satanist?
I imagine they think he's a demon.
I am a demon from the pits of hell. So
say hi to my grandpa, by the way.
We haven't seen him since they left for Argentina.
Yeah, he just screams a bunch. It's weird.
Did I just say Argentina? Argentina. Jesus.
Argentina.
Yeah, fucking mute.
I'd love to give him innocent blood, but the fact is we're on a strict budget here in the household, and innocent blood just costs more. So, you gotta go with somebody that thinks they're innocent. At least you think the blood might taste good.
You're getting morally agnostic blood there, demon.
For me, I'm going the way of Ood with some weed. I have a Delta 8 cartridge lemon haze that I got from a grocery store, which I was like, that's cool.
Oh, one of those reloadable cartridges?
Yeah, I just pop it onto whatever battery I have.
I so want to dive into those, but I feel like if I start to fuck with concentrates, my tolerance is going to get to all new stupid high levels.
You gotta keep the ability to find that edge.
That's why I like Delta 8, though, because it's about half as potent as regular Delta 9 THC. It's about a carbon off. That's what the 8 and 9 refer to. I really like it because I don't eat my fridge when I get high anymore.
What about you other two? What are you consuming?
I'm drinking the zero sugar Coca-Cola Dream flavored. I don't know what it tastes like. It's got like a vanilla, cherry, and I'm not sure if I like it or not.
Well, it tastes like Dream.
Does it taste like the stress dream you have before something really big happens at work where all your teeth fall out and everyone's laughing at you?
No, it's the kind of dream where you're walking through school completely naked, forgot you just studied for the test, and then Cthulhu pops out and say, "Hey, how you doing?"
That sounds like a good time, actually.
I do math better without my pants on, so that might be advantageous.
Dude, I'm getting my freaking PhD in engineering, and I still have a nightmare that they're sending me back to high school math. Like, this is a repeated nightmare that I have.
Math is the devil's invention. Soundboard Demon, could you, tell Satan to, stop sending math up here, please?
Okay, here's the thing. Math is a universal thing, and that means that it's the big guy upstairs that made it, and made it all, because it has to, the universe just has to work with math. We did invent putting Greek letters in it. That was us.
I knew there was a reason I was an atheist.
Okay, you can't tell me that imaginary numbers aren't a demonic plant into perfectly good math.
It's like, why should I find X?
Okay, imaginary numbers, not demonic plant. Using the letter J for imaginary numbers is a demonic plant.
It's about as much sense as sandblasting a soup cracker.
I'm going to live with that in my head forever. I will say, you can blame Einstein for all of it.
And I will. Randall, what are you drinking?
I have one of those nice, spicy, lime bubbly waters.
Ooh.
Delicious.
It sounds like fall.
That sounds incredible.
I was going to say, at least it's not pumpkin spice flavored.
Now I kind of want to put pumpkin spice in it because you said that.
Oh, crap.
Not for positive reasons. I just want to know what it tastes like.
I'm hearkening back to one basement Dungeons and Dragons session where somebody showed up and got us all pumpkin spice lattes as a joke. And then we sat there and we're like, this is really good.
Yeah, delicious.
Let's dive into some monsters of the lake.
The word monster is notoriously difficult to define, and indeed some of the definitions offered by medieval authors are contradictory. While many authors, both classical and medieval, define a monster as being in some way against nature, for St. Augustine and Isidore of Seville, a monster was a part of God's plan, an adornment of the universe that can also teach about the dangers of sin. The 13th century writer and theologian Thomas of Cantimpré singles out rarity and large size as two of the distinguishing characteristics of sea monsters. But I think we would all accept that some creatures that are not very large can be monsters. For the purposes of this talk, a sea monster will be defined as an aquatic creature that was thought astonishing and exotic, regardless of whether it was real or mythical. I also want to emphasize how the idea of what a monster is has changed over time. Today, when we see a picture of a whale, for example, we see a mighty and intelligent animal that is to be protected, and the same is true of walruses. Yet these creatures were considered monsters in the Middle Ages and Renaissance. And we see here a map from 1595 on which a walrus is explicitly identified as a monster. It is interesting to think about how our definitions of what is monstrous might change in the future.
Caveats. So things I want to put aside so we can properly enjoy this episode. Lake monsters all share the same few problems. A lot of these monsters have been cited for hundreds and sometimes even thousands of years. So that suggests that either these monsters are very long-lived, or they have a breeding population that makes new baby monsters. The first option presents a weird biological anomaly. Aquatic reptiles live to be about 70 years. Even the longest-living whale species die at around 200. The longest-living marine animal, a clam, lives to be about 500 years old. But some of these monsters have been spotted for thousands of years. So that suggests that it's more likely to be the second option, where there's a breeding population of these monsters, likely of a couple hundred individuals. But that introduces a new problem. Suddenly you have a couple hundred apex predators in your lake. And if they're Loch Ness monster-sized, that means they would require 80,000 pounds of fresh fish per day to feed the whole breeding population. This would quickly devastate the fish population of most freshwater lakes and rivers, let alone having a sustainable population for hundreds of years. But this episode is not about logic or skepticism. It's about suspending disbelief for a little Halloween fun and exploring the lesser-known lake monsters across the world. We'll start our journey close to home and end it close to home, starting with Canada, the country the podcast is recorded in. Population 38 million. Official languages English and French. Official animal the beaver. And chief export crude petroleum at $47 billion a year. And a lesser-known lake monster from Ontario, and I'll hand it off to She-Wolf.
In the Gitchiname Kusib Inuit First Nation lies in wait the Ugly One. The Treaty 9 land is 580 kilometers from Thunder Bay and is home to the OG Cree First Nation people. The story tells the tale of the Ugly One that sits in Big Trout Lake. It waits in the dark swamp and feasts on beavers to stay alive.
It's also known as the Ugly One.
Is that a literal translation kind of thing then? Or is it like just that was the anglicization because somebody looked at it and was like, nope?
I'm almost positive that's probably what it was that it was just anglicized and they were like, yeah, nobody can pronounce this.
Gotcha.
The elders tell the tale that if the Ugly One is seen, it is a bad omen and claim that something negative will happen to the community. In 2010, 2 OG Cree hikers and their dog found a creature washed up on the shore, claiming to be a creature they had never seen before. With pictures taken, they left the creature, only to find out it was gone upon their return. The pictures showed a long and skinny creature with brown fur and a bald face. The animal is about a foot long. Before 2010, there had not been a sighting of the strange creature in the water since 1950. What do you think it is? The Ugly One the elders speak of? Or is it simply just an animal carcass?
I was looking at the pictures that you sent me in your document here, and I could go either way. If I suspend my disbelief, I could believe that there's this new little creature with a bald face that could exist, and we killed out a lot of things in our early history, especially when we were colonizing Canada. But if I had to put money on it, I would go for this is an animal that has lost some fur due to mange.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a weasel or something, or an otter, obviously like big weasels, right? Like that's it's got like the little 1950s hairstyle going a little bit, where it looks like it's got some sideburns and it's slicked back. But yeah, I would have to. That is a critter.
Ugly as fuck.
With the snag teeth. Yeah.
So some people of the community were saying that it possibly could be like a bear cub or a muskrat or something like that, that just died or fell in the water.
Looks like me when I went through puberty.
Well, this is where our disbelief is really good, but my brain is like, well, what if we took a look at its skull and found a deciduous dentition and we could figure it out? But it's a spoopy looking critter that washed up on a lake. I can't look away.
Not gonna lie, this really creeped me out because there's nothing in its eyes. It's just white, and then the teeth are all gnarly and stuff.
No, it's spoopy season. No skepticism. Boom. Hard on the Ugly One.
The creature is said to have a permanent look of smelling a fart on its face.
I bet you the indigenous word for the Ugly One is actually means the Ugly One. I only say that because there's a lake in Saskatchewan called Witchkin Lake, and Witchkin is the Cree word for stinky. And judging from people that know this lake, it reeks. It's gross. So.
I think this is the face you make behind your uncle's back when he says something really racist at Thanksgiving dinner. It looks like a prop a little bit, right? You would buy that to paint it up from Spirit Halloween. Not that I shop there often.
So they must have got it from the same shop he did.
Let's venture a little farther away from home. We're not going far before we go on our world tour. Next stop is the United States of America. Population 330 million. Official language? It doesn't have one. The founding fathers didn't declare one. Today I learned. The official animal, the bald eagle. And chief export, because they just have to be better than us, refined petroleum at $57 billion a year. And I'll hand it off to some of our American guests to talk about some of their local lake monsters. Postal Poet, would you like to present your local monster first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was really kind of hard to find some information on this little thing. Its name is Blue Dilly, not like the song, and it lives in the Dillon Reservoir. It's in Summit County. It's about an hour west of Denver. Post pictures of what this thing supposedly looks like in the chat.
Before you post what it actually looks like, I just want to point out that a couple years ago, some people made a wooden sea serpent and put it in the reservoir to prank some people, which I find humorous. Sorry, Poet, go ahead.
That's no problem. It's basically a dolphin with manta ray kind of wings. It looks kind of cute when you think about it. Like
that's a Pokemon. That's a water starter third evolution. Is what
I know, right? It's a water type,
and it gains the flying type in the third evolution. No,
exactly.
Yeah, flies around, kills people, and all with a cute smile on its face.
Blue Dilly used surf.
It's super effective.
It's fucking adorable.
Supposedly this thing is like America's Loch Ness Monster, and I honestly couldn't really find much information, because everybody in Colorado is high as fuck anyway, so...
We don't write anything down.
Anything they spot in the water, it could be a floating log. It'll be like, ew, man, that's a sea monster. You see that thing over there? It's like, dude, you're on LSD.
I love that the entire state of Colorado needs to get on the trend of the high book. Bro, you look at that second picture of Blue Dilly, though, and are you telling me that Blue Dilly doesn't know how to hit the bong on the weekend? For sure.
Hey, Johnny, is that a wave? Or is that a dolphin with wings?
Dude, it's gotta be a dolphin with wings, dude.
Dude, whatever you're hitting, let me have some of it.
Yeah, breaks the water. You guys selling any of that? Like, oh my god.
I'd like to point out that there's a website for the Blue Dillon or the Dilly Monster, and it was written by a guy called a person called Dr. J.H. Alexander. I cannot find this human.
It was the dolphin writing about itself.
Who are you, Dr. Alexander? What is your doctorate in?
It might be.
Blue Dilly gave himself a PhD.
You have to get the English translation of the book because the original is just
However, there is a Dr. William J. Alexander, who is a general internal medicine doctor in Longmont, Colorado, and I'm saying it might be them. Wrong initials, but you know what? I'm saying it. This doctor right here is the Dilly Monster.
Billy? Blue Dilly? William is Billy, Blue Dilly. Cracked it. Get him. Book him down.
If the conspiracy's big enough, they could just swoop in and cut off our Discord.
I cannot wait for the follow-up episode about how Blue Dilly is explicitly involved in the Zionist conspiracy theory. Like, that's...
There are quite a lot of different iterations of mermaids, and I firmly believe that this doctor is one, and instead of a fish creature, he is a dolphin winged creature.
And centuries of sailors saw Blue Dilly with her delicate spread wings and went, I'd tap that.
Oh, I was just going to say that sexy dolphin Billy makes complete sense considering how Ooh just told us all about who his horny fans would be. You read us about that man's marine biologist tendencies?
Yeah. Dolphinsex.org is for sale, huh?
By the way, when we go to Brazil, we're going to run into more horny dolphins. So look forward to that. Rocky, you had a lake monster to present as well, right?
Yes, I do. I wanted to go a little bit over just this rash of lake monster sightings that occurred in the 19th century to mid 20th century. There have been sightings after that, but This I thought was especially charming. So in 1883, the New York Times, I don't know what they think about Chicago to have such authority to post a newspaper with this story in it. But they warned their readers about a 60 feet of sea serpent prowling Lake Michigan, which is less than 1,000 feet deep. So that's a proportionally huge. That's a lot of Lake Michigan. That's a serpent,
right?
And they said it had an alligator head with 3 fins along its back. George Saunders of Fairport, Wisconsin, I don't know why they're in New York interviewing people from Wisconsin about something they saw in Chicago, but I still believe it's legit. I believe in the credibility of this newspaper publication, and if you don't, there is something wrong with you.
Don't interrogate your sources, just...
Yeah, but that was really fun. And actually, there was a more recent one. I think it was, Yes, July of 2019, where there was another alligator-type creature sighting, and not in Lake Michigan necessarily, but a much smaller lake in Humboldt Park, which is 200-acre large park that lies in the middle of the city of the North Side. So in this, poor terrorized walkers, pedestrians were just trying to enjoy their day, and they could see these eyes, these scales peeking out at them from the bridges. Turns out, of course, Chicagoans named him Chance the Snapper, after Chance the Rapper, a Chicago artist. So Chance the Snapper is real, and he ended up resisting lures to try to get him out. He apparently had a steady stream of food, which there are a lot of ducks in that lake, so I'm not particularly surprised. He was really making himself at home. It was a really exciting summer to live in Chicago. We just have so much wonderful wildlife, but unfortunately they took him out of the park because he would have frozen to death if they didn't. And he was only about 5 feet long. That's really small for an alligator. They're on average 13 feet. So they got him in a cage somewhere. He's no longer allowed to roam free.
Chance the Snapper went to jail. He's gonna have a jail album. Are they still making Franklin? Are we gonna get the Chance the Snapper episode of Franklin anytime? That would be incredible. Franklin goes to the concert.
So normally the thing that the hosts have bound their souls to me to do is to find some cool facts about these things as we're talking, just so I can pop something in. I got completely distracted because 2018 there is a Lake Michigan monster movie. There is a trailer on YouTube. You can look it up. But one of the taglines says, "If SpongeBob creator Steven Hillenburg took all the drugs and decided to create a Halloween episode."
That's so beautiful.
Sign me up.
It looks bad. There's definitely a scene where this sea captain, Seafield, is swimming through the water holding a sword with a pipe sticking out of his mouth.
As you do. So a big thank you to our cult members for presenting the domestic, lesser-known lake monsters, but now we're going to go on a trip around the world. I used a random country generator, and I randomly generated 10 countries around the world. Pretty much every country out there has some lake or river, body of water that has a monster within it. These are 10 random countries around the world, and a lesser-known lake monster in each of them. First stop, Italy. Population, 59 million. Official language, Italian. The official animal of Italy is the Italian wolf. Apparently they come in Italian. What do you guys think their chief export is?
Scuderia Ferrari losses.
Pizza.
Who exports pizza?
That's what
okay.
DiGiorno is, right?
It's not DiGiorno. It's not delivery. It's disgusting.
We call pizza gets to your door. has a nice little made in Italy EU seal on it.
Well, you know what they say about pizza? It's only pizza if it's baked within the confines of Italy. Otherwise, it's just a round meat pie.
Meat pie.
I fucking love that.
Chief export of Italy is precision machinery. They make $100 billion a year machining apparently the most precise little metal components of machines in the world. That's their chief export. And the lake monster we're going to be talking about today is Lariosauro from Lake Como in Italy, more commonly known as Larry the Lake Monster.
I think Larry's actually a short form of Lorenzo too, isn't it?
I think so. A common theme for a lot of these lake monsters is that they take place in deep lakes. Lake Como is the deepest lake in Italy. It's 1,400 feet deep, and it has hundreds of underwater caves that a monster could hide in. Bodies of water like this, where a layman could decide that, oh, it's deep, so a monster could hide in there, I think that helps keep myths alive to a certain degree. Its first sighting was in 1946. There was 2 hunters tracking game animals when they saw a giant animal with harsh, bright red scales. It held itself up on the shore on oar-like flippers, and it had a jagged, tooth-filled mouth on a long neck, about 40 feet long from nose to tip. They, of course, started shooting at it, and it quickly took off into the water. It was then named after a fossil that was discovered on Lake Como, the Lariosaurus, a mosasaur. It's sort of like the Loch Ness Monster, except with a slightly shorter neck and a short, stubby tail.
One of the species names is balsami, and I can only imagine that they were like, oh, this is a neat-looking fossil, dump some balsamic on it, try to dip their thing, like, that's not oil. Oh, well.
Where is balsami?
And it seems like after these hunters spotted it, and after the hunters, or I guess the media in Italy, named it after this real fossil that was found there, suddenly the spottings of Larry shot up. A few years after the hunters, a bathysphere, an early submarine, was submerged 300 feet into the lake. The lake had become sort of a tourist area because there was a lot of World War battles fought there. So there was sunken tanks and planes and ships that people could go see in these bathyspheres. The people in that sphere saw an aquatic animal. It looked like one of these mosasaurs, but it was tiny, about 5 feet long with a crocodile-like head and flippers. Maybe a teenage Larry? 3 years later, a father and son saw an even smaller creature, 2 feet long, with webbed feet and a round nose. It sort of sounds like an otter, but otters aren't native to this lake, and it really has no wildlife that looks like this. Maybe that 2-foot-long one is a baby Larry. And just like Loch Ness, Lake Como in Italy seems to be one of these lakes where all the locals that have lived around this lake for generations, they all have their own personal war story of their encounter with Larry. And that's the first stop on our voyage.
I'll never forget about Larry.
I stand Larry. I also have to correct myself. Apparently there is no region, balsami, that the word balsamic comes from. It literally means it's like a balsa. So what about that species that they think it was, do you think made it like a balsa?
Oh, I'm not even sure. I actually didn't look that up. I wonder if it just resembled something. What's a balsa?
Balsam is a type of fir tree with lots of resinous stuff. It's a thing for making stinky incense. That's the word.
Yeah.
Stinky makey.
Maybe it was stinky.
Balsam is the resinous exudate which forms on certain kinds of trees and shrubs.
It's tree jizz. I made it for you. Balsamic vinegar is a tree coming in your mouth.
The next stop on our world trip of lake monsters is in Kenya, a country in Africa. The continent of Africa. Just want to make that clear.
Kenya.
Because I'm not gonna get this wrong. Kenya, population 53 million. Official language Swahili. Official animal the lion. Anybody want to guess what their chief export is at $1.2 billion a year?
Power thirst references.
Fertilizer.
It's actually tea.
Oh, interesting.
I guess the English got down there.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was one of the English colonized.
Fully was an English colony.
And the lake monster we're going to talk about today from Kenya is the Lukwata from Lake Victoria.
Oh, sorry, we were just like, I wonder if the English got down there.
Well, I mean, that name kind of sounds like, look in the water, Lukwata.
Postal poet, you do not know how correct you are. The name Lukwata doesn't really have an origin. It's not a name or a word in Swahili. The actual theory behind where this myth came from is the local Kenyans were trying to show these dumbass British colonizers where the monster was, and they kept on trying to communicate in English, look at the water, look at the water, look at the water.
Could we just, hey, if you're listening and you're plotting your world-spanning empire, could you not take your thickest motherfuckers and put them on boats and make them responsible for going to other places? Like, slightly better than tepid IQs should be leading these expeditions. Please.
However, on the other term of thick, please do send your many seas thickest explorers.
Send the dummy thick people with like a solid head on their shoulders. Send the people you want to date.
So it reminds me of that that Heritage commercial that was on and how Canada was named.
I did not. I'm curious. Tell me more.
Canada means village, but like they were asking like, what is this land called?
Yeah.
And they're like Canada, and I can't remember how they put it.
What's he saying, Father?
Commandant Cartier is saying this nation's name is Canada.
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 Beg pardon, sir, but the word he used, I think it really means those houses down there.
No, believe me, I know the word. It means nation, and Canada is its name.
Wakion, Canada.
But I'm sure it means the houses, the village.
I say that's one hell of a village.
Essentially, the idea is that they gestured to their encampment or village and said Kanata, which is their word for village, and the Franciscan friar was like, oh, I think he's saying village, and the dude's like, he's saying that this is called Canada. This whole spawning land is Canada. And the priest is like, I'm pretty sure he means village. He's like, no, it's the entire lot.
Colonialism is bad and literally stupid. The more you know.
Big truth.
Speaking of colonialism, the Lukwata is usually described as a long, white, aggressive sea serpent, and it's different sizes in different accounts. It's anywhere from 20 to 100 feet long. It has a snake-like head, but the thing that sets it apart from just looking like a giant snake is it actually has two long prehensile tentacles that come out of its face, making it sort of look like a catfish with really beefy whiskers.
I knew what Cthulhu is on Earth.
It has frequent stories of attacking canoes, and when Europeans started to bring steamships over, apparently it would get on the steamships and go after the sailors. And the tales from the 1800s say that this thing was aggressive. Like, some lake monsters will hide and, intimidate from under the water. This thing had no problem raising its head 10 feet out of the water to look at, British steam sailors right in the eye before going after them.
I think that has something to do with, when whales would ram ships and stuff. I think it was actually trying to assess whether or not it could fuck the ship because it thought it was another sea monster.
Oh, yeah, or in the case of the Essex, the men fixing the hull under the ship may have been confused for the bellowing of another male whale, and, they did battle as they do.
Yeah, the sea serpent comes up as you're like, yeah, that ship looks fucking hot, I'd tap it.
Dude, it sounds to me like Lukwata already knows whether or not it fucks, and the answer is yes.
Oh, 100%. A European explorer in 1907 apparently encountered and then shot the Lukwata, causing the local inhabitants to make animal sacrifices to beg forgiveness of the creature. That they felt like they needed to keep the creature happy. They feared it and respected its power. There are a few tales of crocodiles managing to kill a Lukwata, causing the people living nearby to want to collect the body parts of this dead creature to make into potions and amulets. And they frequently drowned baby animals in the lake to appease the monster.
Well, why go through all of that when they could just send out an empty ship so it could get its jollies off? That would keep it happy.
If British ever come down another steamship, I would recommend feeding them to the creature.
Dude, Lukwata just wants to hang out, tussle with alligators, and fight the colonial oppressor. Let him at it. Go, brother. It's all you.
It all sounds like it's all just a metaphor for those colonizers. He's thick white serpent trying to see what it can fuck over, demanding the sacrifice of babies.
Can't keep it happy. Yeah.
Oh, happy history. Our next lake monster is New Zealand. Population 5 million. Their official languages are English and Maori. Is that how to say it, Maori?
Maori.
I think it is Maori, yeah.
The official animal, anybody want to guess?
Kiwis!
Wallaby.
Fuck yeah, the kiwi bird.
Fuck yeah, kiwi bird. You go, kiwi bird.
The chief export, this one's kind of obscure and it's like a collection of things, so I'll just tell you guys. New Zealand makes $12 billion a year exporting dairy, eggs, meat, wine, and honey.
Oh, dude, like New Zealand's agricultural protection laws, like they don't just export that stuff. They are super crazy about protecting it. Like you can't bring your dog there in case it has a disease that would kill like sheep herding dogs and livestock. It's insane how agriculturally focused they are.
With all that dairy, they kind of sound like the Wisconsin of the Southern Hemisphere.
I was gonna say Wales, but yeah.
It's like, what you got there, mate? Oh, it's what kind of milk is that? Oh, right. Oh, that's almond milk. You can't bring that in here. That's not from a real animal.
I think it's like a Wisconsin with universal health care. I feel like that's a thing in New Zealand.
We'll have to get Bray to set us straight on this one.
There's the litmus test. We got to mortally wound Papa Bray, and then if he goes into debt, we'll know.
The only way to know.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
Yep.
What we should do is like see if he can like give us a haka.
Yeah. Speaking of the Maori, the creature that we're looking at comes directly from their cultural tales. The Taniwha, spelled Taniwha. Apparently, WHA is pronounced with an F. Unlike a lot of the lake creatures that we're talking about today, where they're confined to one lake or one river, this monster apparently can appear in any body of water in New Zealand. They are described as whale-like in size, often described as resembling a giant gecko, with splayed-out legs, reptilian scales, and a long lashing tongue. And it has a row of spines along its back like an iguana. This whale-sized aquatic lizard is its regular form, but according to the legends, they are also shapeshifters, able to appear as sharks, snakes, dolphins, or any other aquatic creature.
Fucking rules.
There's something fun about the Taniwha you guys are going to find out. The Maori give offerings of green twigs, sweet potatoes, and apples, along with small prayers, when fishing or crossing the bodies of water to kind of appease the Taniwha. They have many tales of these creatures in their culture. These creatures don't all behave the same. It seems like each one has a certain personality. Some are described as like animalistic, like predatory animals that just want to eat people. And some are more described as like benevolent river spirits that'll like, give you a sword, and shit like that. So it seems like each one has its own personality.
Like the Lady of the Lake or something.
I was going to say strange sea creatures laying in ponds, shooting in swords. It's actually pretty good government.
Yeah. I think this is interesting because it's a little different than the other ones that we've listened to so far, because this is getting into demigod god territory, right? Like,
yeah, I completely agree. I was going to say that too. I was just double checking my facts, but the Maori came from Polynesia on canoes 700 years ago to New Zealand. So, like, that's a lot of time to spend out on the ocean, and having these different characters as sea monsters makes total sense, because that's what they have to deal with when they're traveling 4,300 kilometers or like 2,600, whatever, big number miles.
Yeah.
In a goddamn canoe.
It's almost like the Polynesian version of the biblical Exodus.
Have you ever read the Kon-Tiki expedition? It's fucking trying to do it even with modern technology is incredible. It's like really seriously metal. And it's like that kind of like, oh no, we respect this. This is a god. It has its stream that it's responsible for. Very like, I think it's Shinto is the other kind of Eastern.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. Like that's what it's reminding me of. And it's kind of incredible.
And like you're saying, Maori being descended from Polynesians, there are also reptilian deities in Hawaiian lore called Mo'o, which are very, very similar to Taniwha.
Yeah, because if you see one of those in the middle of the night, you're like, Mo'o.
wah.
I just got it. Oh man, audio processing. Yeah. Anyways, here's the fun part about Tanifa that's really going to win over the gamers in the crowd. There's a few tales of the more predatory, like animalistic Tanifas. If they're slain and their bellies are cut open, the people they ate will be still dead, but they'll be whole and untouched. They'll be like pristine.
It's like an organic piñata. Happy birthday!
Exactly. And like the people are dead, but still perfectly preserved, so their bodies aren't affected by being eaten by this thing. And also, when these things are cut open, according to the legends, greenstone jewelry, fine furs and leathers, and spices are often found inside of it. That's right, this lake monster drops actual loot when slain.
Oh god. Guys, I killed Tanifa in World of Warcraft. This is the first boss of Eternal Palace. Hold on.
There is also a Magic the Gathering card, which phases out all of your lands and has trample. It is a 7/7 and costs 5 mana, requiring 2 blues.
How much is it? Hold on, I'm gonna look that up.
Our next stop on the world tour is in Laos. Population 7 million. Official language.
It's Lao.
The official animal is the elephant. What do you guys think its chief export is?
Is it like an intellectual export? Like they export people who are trained in like some sort of trade?
I'll say that they export something that can't be delivered on a truck.
Dynamite.
Tech support. Is that racist? I feel like kind of bad about that. But like a remote service of some kind?
Yeah, you're getting close. I'll give it to you. They make $2 billion a year selling electricity to other countries.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's their chief export is electricity. They have a whole bunch of active rivers, and so they have a bunch of hydroelectric stuff built up.
Cool.
And they produce about 600% of the energy they need, and they just sell the excess.
Who are they selling it to?
Cambodia, Vietnam.
Right.
That's that whole little peninsula.
Is it Myanmar or Burma? Myanmar. Okay, so there are some like really population-dense countries, especially like China, obviously, and Vietnam, right next door. So there's probably a lot. Oh, that's super cool.
And the lake monster of Laos that we're going to be looking at today is the Naga.
Bruh. World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft all over again. It's the friggin' snake people.
Right? Naga, according to people from Laos, are divine supernatural creatures that live in the Mekong River. They're kind of halfway between a dragon and a snake. They're described as great, divine water serpents, covered in golden or emerald scales, supporting a prominent horn and having a sort of beard on its head and chin. In many depictions, they have multiple heads, most often 2, 3, or 7.
Friggin' Hydra.
Oh, yeah. And they are aliens to this world, according to the local myths. There's a real forest nearby Laos called the Kam Chunod Forest. In that belief system, they believe that that forest is secretly the border between the world of humans and the netherworld of death, and that Naga are born from that location and jump into the Mekong River to become the lake monsters.
Dude, I fuck with that so hard.
They are the star spawn of Cthulhu.
Oh yeah, these sound like deep ones, don't they?
Oh yeah. Okay.
I was going to say deep ones are more adherent to Dagon, but Dagon's lower than Cthulhu, so yeah.
They are in Laotian culture like considered quite holy and like gods. So more of a good thing than a bad thing in Laotian culture.
Nagas have a negative connotation because in D&D they're monsters, in World of Warcraft they're monsters, but in Laos they are guardian angels. They are shepherds of people native to that country, protectors. They are so ingrained into the culture that almost every temple in that country has wooden carvings or artwork of these Naga in the temple.
God damn.
There's also a phenomenon. Now, if you're boring and use logic and science and all that, you'll say that these fireballs that rise from the river are just swamp gases that spontaneously combust. But if you're based like the people from Laos are, you'll know the truth that these fireballs are actually the Naga shooting them into the sky for mysterious reasons.
Fuck yeah, they are. Laos slaps.
Thousands of people will flock to Pakgum district tonight, hoping to witness the strange phenomenon of the Naga fireballs, where orbs of floating light rise mysteriously from the muddy waters of the Mekong.
Known in Lao as Bangfai Payanak, the appearance of the Naga fireballs coincides with the end of Buddhist Lent on the full moon of the 11th month of the Buddhist calendar. The reddish pink balls of light are known to rise from the Mekong along a 100-kilometer stretch of the river from both sides, Laos and Thailand, with recorded sightings dating back more than 100 years. No one knows for sure what is behind this strange phenomenon, but legend has it that it is the breath of the Naga King, a serpent that resides in the Mekong, who has just awoken after 3 months of meditation during Lent. Some say the fireballs are caused by combustible gases which rise from the Mekong at this time of year, when the moon is at its closest point to the earth, which coincides with the end of Lent. A study by the Thai Ministry of Science pointed towards a gas called phosphine, which they say they have captured on film. Many more believe it is certainly the Naga, who choose to be a bodyguard of the Lord Buddha in his final life, hoping to learn more about the Buddhist way and aren't ready to let science interfere with their traditional beliefs. Thousands of people gather on the banks on the Mekong River to witness the revered fireballs every year, both in Pak Ngum district and also across the river in Thailand, with Phon Pisai district in Nong Khai province providing another good vantage point. In Pak Ngum district, the 3 most popular villages to congregate are Pak Ngum, Non Sai and Nong Kiat, where the fireballs normally appear in their greatest number between 7 and 9 p.m., though some years there are more than others.
Also, they use a sort of marking magic. It's said that if a new mark appears on your body, or on your house, or on your pet, or on your car, because it can mark any number of things, it may be a magical mark from a Naga, and the mark may be cursing you or blessing you, and you'll never really know. So, like, if you are around the Mekong River and you wake up with a new mark on you, it might be a Naga cursing or blessing you.
When you said marking, it made me think, what are they going to do? Like pee on you? Or
you pee in the river, they're fucking cursing you, apparently.
Right. You're like, you pee in our house, we'll pee in your face.
So imagine, like, you come home, you've got graffiti on, it's like, fucking Naga tagged my house again.
Naga gang signs.
You're going to fart twice as often now.
Sounds to me like the Naga kind of fuck. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, 100%.
I'm into it.
It's like these damn humans.
I'm looking at a Google Maps of Laos trying to find this river so that I can plan a trip there, because this just sounds incredibly interesting.
It's the Mekong, by the way. People who are familiar with the Vietnam War will know about the Mekong.
Demon, to talk about lake monster from Uganda.
I can only find a couple sentences about this one, but in Lake Kyoga, which is a surprisingly not deep, like it's a very shallow lake in Uganda, they have a lake monster called the Canucles. And the only thing I could find about it was that when the queen came in the 50s, before she was actually the queen, and then before she was very dead.
Sorry?
Too soon, man, too soon.
Never too soon. The day it happened.
Dismantle the monarchy.
Hey, she's back down here. She's helping us run shit down here. It's fine. This Ugandan Canucles from Lake Kyoga actually spit on the queen. And that's all I could find, was that as she was touring past this river, the Ugandan Canucles spit on the queen. That's it. That's all I found about the Ugandan Canucles.
Do you know the way?
Our next spot on the tour is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Population, 89 million. Official language, French. And you know why. Official animal, the okapi, which is a interestingly colored, related to giraffe, antelope-looking thing.
Isn't it similar to like a tapir or something like that?
I think it's very similar.
Well, kind of looking, but they're long-legged. They've got stripes, and they're called forest giraffes.
Oh, they're like stockier than I thought they would be.
Thick.
Dude, I found a picture of one from a zoo, from the Maryland Zoo, and this guy's face. Look at this cute little guy. He's like, yeah, y'all got any of that grass?
Oh shit, motherfucking leaves.
Yeah, motherfucking leaves.
What do you guys think the chief export of the Congo is?
I'm going to say diamonds.
Coffee?
Postal Poet got it with a bullseye. $60 billion in diamond exports every year.
Yikes.
The monster we're going to talk about from the Congo, and I want to do lesser-known ones. There are a few neo-dinosaurs running around Africa. These are dinosaurs that are thought to be still living today. The most famous one is Mokalamembe. It looks like a long neck, Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus, kind of that body style.
A Littlefoot.
Yeah, it gets most of the attention. But there's a lesser-known neo-dinosaur that I'm going to talk about today. Emelantuka. It is feared by locals, and it's known by one other name, the elephant killer. Now, let me know what dinosaur this sounds like. 4 short, thick legs, has reptilian scales, sports a long single horn on its snout. The horn is as tall as a grown man, and it stands about as tall as an African elephant, about 13 feet at the shoulders.
That sounds like either a Stegosaurus or an Ankylosaurus.
Yeah.
The one that it sounds most like to me with the big horn on its snout is a Strachosaurus, which is like a Triceratops with a single big horn. And
So
weirdly,
kind of like an ancestor to the rhino.
A different lineage, but same general body shape. It's kind of like a reptilian rhino with a bigger horn, and rhinos stand at about 4 or 5 feet at the shoulder. This thing was as tall as an elephant, about 13 feet at the shoulders.
So imagine
he's a big boy.
Oh yeah, and that's sort of the funny thing. Like, the myth could be coincidence, but if there's an actual, like, neo-dinosaur, the Strachosaurus, which it sounds most like, is about that size. Like, it's about as big as an elephant.
Yo, I've definitely killed that in the last expansion for World of Warcraft.
It had 4 major differences from the Strachosaurus. 1, it has no neck frill. It's basically just a head with a horn, no neck frill, when most Triceratops types had a neck frill. 2, in most tellings, it drags its tail. Dinosaurs don't drag their tails. They hold their tails off the ground. There's ligaments and shit. We know this. 3, it was aquatic. It spent most of its time submerged in deep rivers and swamps.
So basically a prehistoric hippo.
Yeah, and while all the Triceratops-like dinosaurs were plant eaters, this Emelantuka eats plants and meat. What meat? That's where the name elephant killer comes in. Apparently there's a whole bunch of legends of this thing, which is the same size as an elephant, just running up to an elephant, impaling it on its giant man-sized horn, and then consuming the elephant body.
Holy shit.
Apparently it didn't do this all the time. Sometimes just ate, like, weeds or plants in the water.
Nature's kebab.
Right?
That's, goddamn Congo.
See, the funny thing about neo-dinosaurs and just dinosaurs in general is once you start hearing the descriptions of them, if you're familiar with a certain paleo artist called Charles Knight, you will recognize his very not accurate to life, but accurate to the thoughts of the time portrayals of these dinosaurs, because all of the, like, scaly kangaroos and tail-dragging, like, scaly hippos, they're all just these really famous Charles Knight portraits, including there is a picture of a ceratopsid that has not very much of a neck frill, big old horn on it, and looks like a scaly hippo.
That looks like a really fat alligator.
Pretty much.
Well, that's what they thought they were, right?
Sightings dropped off at about the same time the camera was invented. You know, funny thing. But throughout the 1800s, apparently sightings of this creature were so frequent that there are multiple biographies, travel guides, adventure guidebooks that mention, hey, stay away from this Triceratops-looking motherfucker in the Congo.
I'll make the argument that our concept of what makes a real, air quotes, animal is if some fucking Western dude showed up and wrote a book about it and slapped his name on it, right? So, like...
Yeah.
Right, so, like, there's... if this thing is real, it's probably, like, as common to, you know, it could be like the river equivalent of a fucking possum would be to us now. Like, oh, there's the elephant killer. God damn it. Go, like, beat it out of your trash cans with a broom, right?
And we've totally extincted things before, so, like, it's possible we could have killed it out before it was even properly discovered, you know?
Yeah, man.
Our next stop on the trip around the world in Lake Monsters is in Australia. Now, I said at the beginning I was going to talk about lesser knowns. Bunyip is going to get its own episode at some point, but I want to talk about another lesser known one that I thought was really interesting. Australia. Population, 25 million. Official language, English. Official animal, kangaroo. I'll say that its chief export is some kind of ore. Anybody want to guess what kind of ore that is Australia's chief export?
Uranium.
What is it? Iron?
You hit 2 nails on the head today. It is iron ore at $48 billion a year.
Oh, right. Australia's not really down with the whole uranium mining thing. But they're cool with iron? What?
I can't imagine, like, mutated kangaroos and shit.
Oh, dude, there's tons of really surface level uranium in Australia. It's insane. But they only have like 3 functioning uranium mines, I think.
Well, I guess that explains Mad Max.
Oh boy.
coming out of the early 2000s with the long bomb.
Wow, make me feel old shit.
The lake we're going to be talking about today is Lake Alexandria, and its local, lesser-known lake monster, Moljavonk. This Australian lake monster was born from legends used to deter Aboriginal children. With 2 human-like arms, a long, powerful tail, and a human-like head, they appeared a lot like malevolent mermaids, except their human halves were also scaly. They varied in size. Some of them were human-sized. The human-sized ones committed more minor mischief, like they would ruin the nets of fishermen, they would drown swimmers, they would...
Just a minor drowning. Sorry, you would go on.
Oh yeah, like minor mischief.
The way you set that up. Oh, they'd like ruin your net or kill your children.
Oh, wait till you hear what the big ones do. The big ones fuck.
Oh shit.
They seem to target European settlers and people deemed naughty or immoral in Australian Aboriginal culture.
You said the big ones fuck. I can't imagine like one of them's like, all right, purpose and prepare your anus.
There's not enough yoga in the world, right? The others are described as giants, and when I say giants, I mean like gigantic. Some of the legends say that they're big enough that their hands can grasp the hulls of steamboats like toys, and they're able to like drag horses and cattle into the water. Like we would pick up a hamster. Apparently these things are picking up entire cows and dragging them into the water.
I regularly bathe with a hamster.
I'm not even gonna...
Lammy wings. In one tall tale of a giant Moljavonk, there was a European steamboat that was being introduced into Lake Alexandria. Apparently, the captain caught one of these giant hands grabbing the hull of its boat like a toy, and he took out his pistol and he shot at the hand. The bullets hitting the hand was enough to scare it off, but apparently this creature cursed him. A few days later, he was contracted with some disease that left him bedridden, and his skin broke out in open sores and hives. And then 6 months later, after he shot the monster's hand, he died.
Guys, I shot this monster and suddenly I have syphilis.
Oh, yeah.
Classic syphilis curse.
It was definitely the lake monster.
Absolutely. Guys, I was just banging everybody in sight, and then this monster cursed me with syphilis. Bizarre.
Just like in The Little Mermaid, apparently this Moljavonk can also grow legs and walk around to conduct business on land, as there's many accounts of this thing leaving giant-sized footprints as it walks out of a lake. Again, in recent history, since the invention of the camera, sightings have nearly disappeared, and Aboriginal elders today often suggest that the aggressive merfolk giants have left the lake, now leaving it empty and lake monsterless.
Sad. They went to a nice farm upstate.
Our next stop is in North Korea. Population 25 million, official language Korean. Their official animal is Cholamia, which is a Pegasus. It's like a winged horse.
I mean, doesn't Scotland have the fucking unicorn? Like,
yeah, I was gonna say.
Truth.
North Korea's economy is tiny. Their chief export is only $17 million a year. Anybody want to guess what it is?
Noodles.
North Korea exports
Assassinations.
Oppression.
Beer.
Apparently it's batteries.
Wow, that's disturbing.
Well, I mean, they gotta have some way to run their military.
On double A's.
Oh, jeez. And the lake monsters we're going to be looking at today is in Heaven Lake. Heaven Lake is a weird lake. It's a crater lake in the caldera of an occasionally active volcano. The volcano is active enough that the lake itself cannot sustain a fish population. They basically stocked the lake with new fish every year because the fish that live in that lake will become sterile and will be unable to breed themselves. Because there's so much sulfur and byproducts from the volcano's activity that keep the lake sort of toxic.
Okay, but what the fuck? Why did they need fish there?
It's literally they stock the lake with fish so that people can fish the fish out.
To eat these fish that are getting fucked up by their I wouldn't eat that. I'm just saying.
But if you're a dictatorship on a peninsula country and you need to control your people so they stay entirely within the borders, you have to create destinations that are desirable for them where you can maintain control of them.
That's like going fishing in Chernobyl.
Mount Pektu is like a holy mountain to Korean people, so it would make sense that people making pilgrimages there want to do fishing and shit.
Heaven Lake doesn't have one monster like most of the places I'm talking about today. It has 20 or more. What's weirder is the monsters seem to emerge every year in the heat of summer. That's when new stories come out. There's a summer convention every year at Heaven Lake of lake monsters because people spot new weird things every year. In 1903, a creature described as a buffalo the size of an elephant came out of the water with an unnatural roar and attempted to run down 3 people, and it had to be shot 6 times before it returned to the water. Another year, a monster came out of the water again. It was mostly human, 2 legs, 2 arms, a human torso, but its head was attached to a 5-foot-long serpentine neck, and its human face was distorted. Its eyes and mouth were bloated. Another monster was described as simply white and black spheres the size of boulders that appeared in schools of 20 or more and swam around each other like fish, just like black and white orbs.
This model hadn't loaded in yet.
Another sighting describes 6 mini Nessie, like dog-sized Loch Ness monsters, swimming around the lake faster than the sailboats in the lake in complete unison like synchronized swimmers.
I want one as a pet.
Another one, there's 20 of them, so this is the last one I'll describe, but there's a whole bunch, was described as a big pile of seaweed that's dragging itself in and out of the water while screaming in pain.
Yikes. Okay, see, in my mind, just hearing this, it's happening in the summer, right? Year after year. In my mind, it's okay, the altitude, which I'm scared of heights because that's why I live in the Midwest, the heat, maybe these weird sterile fish getting fried alive in their water and probably rotting. I don't know. I'm all these factors combined have these people tripping the fuck out. And then that's where they're oh shit, guys, you see that seaweed move? Oh my God.
There's got to be some volcanic gas that can cause hallucinations too.
Is there a Heaven Lake roguelite hack and slash ISO video game? Because
I'd play
that's what you're describing to me.
You're looking to move on from WoW?
Oh, always. Save me. Send help. Please send help. Save me.
It's only 9 square kilometers, so it's quite small.
Oh.
But it is a fairly deep-ish lake. It's about almost 700 feet deep, 213 meters. Max depth, 1,200 feet.
That's where the spawn point is, is at the bottom.
Maybe the monsters have a timeshare thing.
The monsters all got suckered in, and now they're in this contract for the next 200 years.
Damn it, Chad.
Yeah, we just wanted the free lunch.
Fun fact real quick, too. North Koreans claim that Kim Jong-il was born near the lake on the mountain, and on his death, the ice on the lake cracked so loud it shook the heavens and earth.
Good for him.
Our next stop is in Brazil. Population 212 million, bigger than I thought actually. Official language Portuguese. The official animal is the jaguar. At $28 billion a year, what plant do you think is their chief export?
Marijuana.
Kofifi.
The answer is actually soybeans. They export $28 billion worth of soybeans every year.
Thank you for your latte service, Brazil. I knew that Brazil was a big agricultural company or company. It's a big company. It's all corporations. It's a big agricultural country. But soy, huh?
And the lake monster we're going to talk about is actually one that is populated and emerges in the Amazon River, which runs in large part through Brazil. It's known as the Encandato.
I loved that movie.
Encantado, wasn't that a Disney movie? Or
Yeah, it sounds almost like the movie. Yeah. So there's a totally real species of freshwater dolphin that lives in the Amazon River. It's called the pink river dolphin, and it's endangered. It's just entering endangered. It has about 10,000 wild animals left.
Damn.
They're about as smart as a 5-year-old. They're clever, playful, and entirely freshwater dolphins.
We've come here to the Amazon to check out the Boto dolphin, otherwise known as the pink river dolphin. Pink river dolphins are sometimes pink because their capillaries are close to their skin. But they're also sometimes pale blue, and sometimes they're even an albino off-white. There are 5 freshwater dolphin species in the world. Pink river dolphins are the largest. They can grow up to 9 feet long and can weigh as much as 300 pounds, and they can live to be 30 years old. The Amazon River has become more polluted over the years. Has this hindered the dolphins' ability to find their way in these waters? Actually, no, because their eyes are so small they don't rely on their vision anyway. They use echolocation, a kind of sonar, to find their way. That large bump on their heads isn't their brain. It acts as a lens, helping them focus their sounds during echolocation. Let's listen. Dolphins are great swimmers, and pink river dolphins are especially good. Why? They're incredibly flexible and ultra-maneuverable, even in shallow water, because, unlike your body, the vertebrae in this dolphin's spine are free-floating. They're not fused, so the pink dolphin can easily perform 180-degree turnabouts and lookbacks. There's a lot we don't know about pink dolphins. We do know their numbers have fallen because of degradation to the surrounding rainforest. Before the rainforest was threatened, inhabitants of the Amazon River lived in harmony with these dolphins. Now the dolphins are fighting for survival, and their future is as murky as this water.
And then there's the Encantado. It looks exactly like the pink river dolphin. Same size, same color, same shape, except these dolphin men are actually shapeshifters who have a lust for sex with humans.
Oh boy.
So mermaids.
Oh, not mermaids, like horny dolphins.
Oh, this is Blue Dilly's trailer park cousin.
Yeah.
Basically take 1 part Loch Ness Monster, 1 part shapeshifter, 1 part lust demon, bake it in a dolphin-shaped cake pan, and you got an Encantado.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Now, what do these dolphins offer? According to legend, they are all good singers and can play nearly any instrument. They are apparently romantic, seductive, and attentive partners who have endless enthusiasm and energy for sex.
Oh my god, oh my god. The Amazonian legend is just a man who pays attention in bed.
Right.
And we've never caught him on camera.
The bar has never been lower.
There's a legend that he will come up and he will pay attention to your needs both before, during, and after the act.
Listen, I know it's a dolphin, but the dolphin knows where the clit is, so like...
Okay, so please go on about the ideal boyfriend.
They apparently live in a magical golden underwater city where if you live there, you won't grow old, all your needs are met, and humans are able to breathe underwater.
Yeah, they are. All your needs are met.
That's it. My next vacation's going to Brazil.
So most stories of these river dolphin demons involve literal kidnappings where they will first seduce a human under false pretenses, and then if they like the human enough, they'll put them under a spell and take them back. So how do they do this? They are shapeshifters. They change from their dolphin bodies into attractive, well-dressed men and women, often dressed in starking white clothing. Human arms, human legs, torso, genitals, everything is human except for one thing. They have a blowhole that remains on the top of their head, but they hide it with some hair or a nice hat, and they go on to pursue their target, whichever human they fell in love with from the water.
I'm sorry. This is like really close to the Irish legend of the Selkies.
Oh yeah, monomyths go all over the place. They enjoy party atmospheres with music, alcohol, and lust. And they'll use their natural charisma to seduce humans into solitude. They'll eventually have sex with them, and if this demon dolphin likes you enough, it will cast a spell on you and take you away to Underwater City to be with it forever.
Some handsome Latin American man coming, buying you a bunch of drinks, pleasuring you immensely, and then eloping with you sounds incredible.
Do these people ever get found, or is this literally just a story about people showing up at parties, leaving with people, and then never seeing those people they left with again?
Yeah, this could be blaming a lot of real-world tragedies on these, river dolphin myths. The cautionary tale that's told in the legends and tales of Brazil literally say that if a seductive person is super interested out of you, all of a sudden, they're probably just an encantado trying to lure you in. If they appeal to you, they're probably one of those goddamn dolphins.
Yeah, no one would want to be with you for your personality. They're just here to kill you.
Married men are also frequent targets.
Oh.
The encantado will turn into beautiful, well-dressed women, enter the married man's house, and have sex with him. She will then have sex with him once a year on the same day that she had sex with him the first time until the 7th year, where, I guess because the married man cheated, she'll curse him in a really weird way. She'll change the grown-ass married man into an embryo and will place him in the womb of his wife as a punishment, and his punishment is to be born and grow up again from a baby.
What the hell is this kind of Inception shit?
Why is his wife cursed with having a man-child?
Right?
My wife's already cursed with having a man-child.
Yeah. Babe, it was an encantado, I swear.
But also, what you're saying is 6 years of mind-blowing sex, and then you don't go back the 7th year. Got it.
And I thought 7 was a lucky number.
If you're going to cheat on your wife, only do it for 6 years.
That's the OVPOD official device, yeah.
This sounds more like, no, this isn't adulterous. Obviously the men know what they're in for. Kind of like get your comeuppance for being a dog thing.
Oh, yeah. And these dolphins aren't all seductive Lotharios. There are stories of them just being dicks, just drowning children that are swimming, or for some reason they also want human children, and they'll kidnap human children to bring to the city. I couldn't find what they want with the human children, but I don't want to guess.
I would think that they would since the humans can live forever and breathe and stuff down there, they'd probably turn them into more of their own kind or something.
Oh, it could be.
I'm somewhat less horny for the dolphin men now.
All right, now just remember, kids, it's E, not E.
Oh, yeah, that intonation, it means it's a world of difference to them.
It's a tonal language, you know?
I know we stole you from your wife's womb, but your accent's really throwing me off.
Oh my god.
Our second last country is Colombia. Population 50 million. Official language, Spanish. The official animal is the condor. Its chief product...
Juan Valdez.
I mean, you're close. It actually is. $7 billion worth of crude petroleum every year. And the monster we're going to be talking about is the Lake Tota monster.
Can we take a moment to appreciate the solid burn that Ood just issued?
I said Juan Valdez, not Exxon Valdez.
Oh, damn. I confused it for the oil spill thing.
Holy shit. and casually laid this human being low with your words. Goddamn.
Why you gotta diss Juan Valdez, man?
Fuck you, Juan. That ruled.
Es un buen café.
I'm often more clever by accident than on purpose. So the beast in Lake Tota is locally known as Diablo Balena, also known as the devil whale. According to legends of the indigenous tribe local to the area, a moneta, a tribal priest, was attempting to cast out an evil spirit he believed infected the land. This evil spirit was producing hot summers and drought. He sacrificed a black snake as part of the ceremony. In the case of Be Careful What You Wish For, Apparently, the valley that he cast this spell in became Lake Toda, and the sacrificed black snake became the devil whale.
Fuck, that's cool.
The whale is, surprisingly, the size and shape of a whale, about 70 feet long, but it has, instead of a whale head, an ox head, complete with horns, but still with a wide gaping mouth like a sperm whale with teeth.
What the hell are they putting in their coffee down there?
A lot of stuff.
It is Colombia.
Crude oil. What are you talking about?
Nose candy.
Yeah, crude oil.
Yeah, crude oil. That's what I do in the club on a Thursday.
When Spanish conquistadors began to colonize South America, they soon ran into Lake Toda and saw the monster for themselves. It was described as appearing beneath boats and even jostling their hulls if they dared venture near the central islands of the lake. Locals told the Spanish in clear terms that this whale was not simply an animal, not simply a monster, but the devil in fish form. The lake is described in Spanish writings as cursed or degraded. This part convinced me yet again that colonizers are often not good at accurately recording history. This place today is a vacation resort known for its clear water and white sand beaches. But yet, because these conquistadors were being told that it was a demonic lake, suddenly their descriptions don't match reality. They were describing the water as sludgy and stagnant, and the sand not as white, but of this sinking muck.
Kind of fun thing about this, the Spanish conquistadors got fucked with at every turn, and it was great. There's so many times like this where it's probably just like, oh yeah, you can't go there, there's a devil whale, like just don't do it, man. And they're all like, oh, we must away. Same thing with El Dorado. Every time they got close to it, people were like, oh, El Dorado, yeah, that's 10 miles east. And they're like, oh, 10 miles east, we'll go that way. They get 10 miles east, people there are like, oh yeah, go south, it's definitely south. They're like, oh, we're gonna do it. It's like, fuck off, Spain.
It's like telling the people from Regina that Waskasoo just sucks ass all summer so that they don't go there and you can enjoy the beach yourself.
Honestly, you guys are like right on the money. From what I read about the devil whale thing, there's all these writings from like colonizer nations where they basically keep on saying the same thing, like that lake is demonic, that lake has a devil whale, keep away from that lake. But actual sightings are few and far between. The opinion I formed in my mind is it's really the indigenous locals fucking with the conquistadors, and they don't want them near their awesome lake, so they keep on saying like, yeah, there's a devil in it. You don't want to go there.
You don't even want to have sex with her. She's got a puffy vagina. Well, I don't know.
Okay, Rick.
Problem.
That whale in there's a Protestant. You better stay away.
Our last stop is in Iceland. Oh, I have to speak Icelandic. God damn it. Population 366,000. Official language Icelandic. The official animal is the gyrfalcon. It's a little tiny falcon. It's cute. They export a raw mineral at $2 billion a year as their chief export. What do you think that mineral is?
Ice cubes.
Salt.
Sulfur.
It's actually raw aluminum.
Huh.
Who knew, right?
I think you mean aluminium.
Hey, that's English, damn it.
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
I like synonym rolls.
Aluminium.
Okay, here we go. The lake monster we're going to talk about is the Largarfloat. The Lagarfloat worm. Iceland, I'm sorry. I can't do it.
Lagarfloatsiomer? Hold on.
It's good because it's right near the town of Egilsstaðir.
Yeah, my mouth is never going to do that. So the Iceland lake worm. Worm is sort of underselling it. On the small side of when these things are spotted, they're 40 feet long, longer than a school bus. All the way to them being 200 plus feet to even miles long. It apparently has a massive seal-like head, and along its body it has fleshy humps like a camel. So imagine a giant sea snake, 200 feet long, and it has a bunch of humps like a camel kind of jutting out of its back.
That's where it stores its fat.
Yeah. So when they say worm, it sounds like they mean like dune-sized worms.
Yeah, and
you walk without rhythm.
And like it's called a worm because it's not really a sea snake. It has a very strange origin, and the origin is said to take place in the 1300s. So according to legend, a heath worm, which was a type of slug, or some accounts say snail, was given as a gift to a young girl in the 1300s. Apparently it was local legend that the best way to bring riches into your life was to place a piece of gold underneath a heathworm. The little girl took her most prized possession, a gold ring, and put it in a wooden chest with the worm for a few days. Apparently this worm grew quickly, and after only a few days, it became big enough that it busted the trunk that it was contained in open. The little girl panicked, finding out that her little ritual worked a little too well, and she threw both the worm and the gold ring into the lake. And apparently that worm kept on growing until it became miles long, a behemoth. There are legends of it laying waste to the countryside, like moving its body, it floods coasts, and it also spits this poison that spreads disease. So it was blamed for a lot of plagues that were happening in the area as well. And the first accounts of it, it was huge. It was said that the camel humps that appeared above the water were as large as islands.
This is the problem with giving kids pets, especially if the parents aren't prepared to take over. It reminds me of like the 1300 Icelandics version of like kids getting pet baby crocodiles and flushing them down the toilet when they get too big.
Giant carp from the county fair that get flushed.
And then they come back up and bite them in the ass later or something.
Fun fact, the black slug, also known as the heathworm, was used in Sweden to grease axles for carts. They are also edible but rarely consumed, as they taste horrible and bioaccumulate pesticides.
I hope they at least get a fair wage for their work on the axles.
Doesn't Iceland also have that delicacy where they like age a shark that tastes like ammonia or something?
Oh, I think it's usually haddock.
Somebody told me it's like fish jello.
Hakkarl, yeah, fermented Greenland shark, which is poisonous until they ferment it in ammonia, which then makes it edible.
What passes among Nordic folks as edible?
How does that math work? Let's take something inedible, put it in another inedible thing, and then we can eat it?
I mean,
no, I haven't.
Organic chemistry is weird, yo.
Kope Luwak is basically coffee made from the beans that have passed through the system of a civet.
It's really expensive, and it's very hard to find free trade Kobe Luwak that isn't really bad for the civets. Because most of it used to be wild, and now they cage them and force feed them coffee.
That's fucked up.
Oh, well, I hate everything about that.
See, at least beans started off theoretically edible. Nothing about that shark and ammonia are things you'll just eat.
The traditional method begins with gutting and beheading a shark, placing it in a shallow hole, covering it with sand, gravel, and big stones to press out the bodily fluids. It ferments in that fashion for 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the season. Following that, cut into strips and hung to dry. During this period, a brown crust will form, which is removed prior to cutting into small pieces and serving it.
Interesting. So it's not like in lye or something like some of the other preservation methods. It's just,
I was going to say, I think lutefisk is the one that's in lye.
Yeah, lutefisk is haddock in lye. That's what I was thinking of.
So is it like producing its own ammonia? Because that will happen. You do have to check ammonia levels if you have fish tanks. So
yes. So the reason that the Greenland shark itself is poisonous is because it has a very high amount of urea in its body when it's fresh. So my assumption is the urea turns into the ammonia.
That's pretty cool.
So the fish comes out of the water and it comes to you.
Yeah. We just cut it similar like normal fish, and we cut it in 5 or 10 kilos pieces and put it in special wooden boxes for fermentation.
And then what happens?
Then we hang the pieces up for drying.
Can we see it in the drying room?
We can take a look at it.
All right. Holy moly. Hanging from the rafters are 60 sharks, all cut up in pieces like they were ham shanks. Each chunk that you see here is 3 times smaller than its original size. The meat naturally shrinks during the fermentation process, making it easier for Gujan to cut and hang each slab. I have to admit, Hakkarl looks edible, but there's something about unrefrigerated meat hanging on hooks unprotected from the elements that makes me a little wary. It smells like something died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring you a very good piece.
Wow.
Beautiful piece. Smell it.
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't...
It smells like ammonia.
Yeah. Do you want one?
Oh boy, you are one ballsy dude. Okay.
How is it?
Tastes much better than it smells. That smell reminds me of some of the most horrific things I've ever breathed in my life. But the taste of it is sweet, it's nutty, and it's only faintly fishy. I'll take another piece.
Another one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
This worm has consistent sightings going all the way back to the 1300s. Like, there's stories of Icelandic bishops scaring the worm back into the water with the word of Christ. There's stories of brave Finnish men coming over to Iceland and tying the worm to the bottom of the lake. It escaped, but I don't know how you tie a 200-foot worm to the bottom of a lake.
Brave Finnish man coming across the ocean to tie up my worm, title of my sex tape. Sorry. I'm so sorry, Ewan. I just had to get that out.
And there's a recent story of a pair of Icelandic electricians that were laying cabling along a lakeside. Apparently
Is that what we call it?
Oh, yeah. Not a euphemism this time. Rare time, it's not a euphemism.
Right.
Yes, Ori.
Laying cable, tying up a worm.
Oh, I like it, Ori. Oh, that's so good.
Boingy, oofta, oofta.
Apparently these cables were very hardy, and they were designed to neither coil or snap under pressure. You can really ram them in without them kinking or buckling or breaking. Okay, now I'm reading into it. But when they were up on these poles stringing this cable, they saw a giant worm basically writhing amongst the electrical cable below. They basically went, "What the fuck, bro?" When they got down to the ground, this Icelandic worm had retreated back into the water, but this very tough cable that they were using had been shredded apparently by the worm.
It was trying to fuck it.
The most recent update is in 2012, there was a quote-unquote video of this Icelandic monster caught on tape. Skeptics say that it was simply a fishing net caught in some waves. But in 2014, the Icelandic Truth Commission declared that this video had no reason to be fake and said that it was authentic. I don't know if they were motivated by tourism dollars, maybe, but watch this video. Decide if this is a fishing net caught in water or a giant 200-foot worm.
Can you see it? That squiggly thing in the water? Suddenly, Iceland isn't laughing about its own version of the Loch Ness Monster. In a country of odd natural wonders and lots of ice and snow, they still talk of trolls and elves. But a lake monster? It was dismissed as a charming old legend until recently, when a local man nabbed this video of the mysterious monster with the mouth-garbling 16-letter name, Lagerflotsormer.
Welcome to Egilstadier. I think that's how you pronounce it.
A remote area of spectacular fjords and finger lakes.
Helter. Jeffrey. Very nice to meet you.
The witness. Piotr Karolf, the sheep farmer who shot the now famous video. He lives on a ramshackle farm overlooking the lake where the monster, or worm as they call it, is said to live.
So how did the worm move when you saw it? What kind of movement did it make?
Hvernig hreyfði þetta sig?
Þetta var bara svona eins og slanga.
Just like a snake?
Like a snake.
Já. Ringi í fréttamann sjónvarpsins.
He was having his morning coffee when he spotted the creature.
Just to be clear, you just had coffee for breakfast, nothing more to drink?
Já. Herðu, ég hef ekki smakkað áfengi í 7 ár.
He hasn't tasted alcohol in 7 years.
Okay.
He adds he's been told about the monster since he was a boy.
This is a very old monster.
Very old.
Who better than the local historian to fill us in?
He was looking at a map from 1595. It just said in this lake lives a huge monster that often appears when something dreadful is going to happen.
One troubling detail, ancient records and historic sightings suggest the monster is miles long with a hump back. The creature in Hjortur's video is big, but not that big.
Do you know anyone who's seen the monster?
Yeah, I know. Actually, I know a couple of people that have seen the monster. Yeah, and people that I believe in. My mother-in-law, she has seen the monster, for example. I don't doubt that.
Nobody's ever going to question a mother-in-law's sighting of a monster.
Some think what you're seeing here is just ice from the spring thaw. Others think it's just a fishing net.
Do you believe that there really is a Lagerflotsorm?
Not as a living creature. I think it's impossible.
Why?
Because a living creature have to have something to eat.
Well, aren't there fish in there?
There's a fish, but I don't think it's enough for a big creature.
But then he offers this.
When I drive around the lake looking for birds or reindeer, I always look over and I have my camera to be prepared if I see something.
So you don't believe it, but you're prepared to be for the possibility.
Yes.
Which brings us back to Hjorter, the farmer, who can be surprisingly philosophical from his perch overlooking the lake.
Do you believe it?
It's a yes and no question, says the farmer. When they say God exists, I mean you've never seen him. Does the Lagerflotsormer exist? Well, you have to believe. That from one of the few people to have ever seen it.
I'm going to share my screen on it. Go take a look at that.
Yep, this was captured by a citizen in Iceland, and the Icelandic Truth Commission declared that this video is authentic. Like, this is a video of a worm, and
Okay, that organization would never fly in my country, but go ahead.
Your country is the NSA, bro.
Sorry, in America? Have you heard of the CIA? Anyway.
Yeah, CIA, cocks and asses.
Oh, they're in a lot more than asses. Anyways, but
I don't see this worm toppling a democracy.
Are we ready for the video, folks?
I am.
So it's looks like a worm. It's snaky. It's coming in. It's playing in the water. Real slow like.
Yeah, it looks like it's sneaky snaking.
I was going to say, this is going to be the oddest looking conception video I've ever seen.
On that close-up, on the close-up looks like it's got like a flattish type head with two lumps over maybe like its eyes and like a longish, maybe shortish snout, bulbous.
Might be a trash bag.
Maybe ridges along its back.
It did move in a very snake-like way.
Yeah, just really slow. That's interesting.
Kind of reminded me of like a water version of the Sidewinder.
Alrighty, I think that's a great cap. So I'm just gonna lead it out. For oh boy, I took a big toke there. For Occultae Veritatis, Abanud Gallifrey. And in distance recording with me, I have
Mergy,
Postal Poet,
Rocky,
Rental,
and I'm the Soundboard Demon.
So I'm going to hand it back to Merg, and he's going to take it back home with a lake monster very close to Saskatoon, Turtle Lake.
So I'm going to present the Turtle Lake monster in a bit of a short story, because that's kind of how I encountered it. So the highway number 3, heading west out of Glasgow, hasn't changed much since the grey days of late summers in the early 2000s. It's along this familiar route that an old tourist station wagon rumbled many times, before hooking a right past Livelong to the shores of Turtle Lake, having followed a dusty old secondary road to the resort community of Kivama Moonlight Bay. Along the slow, narrow road through town, past the silhouette of the beach playground against the cloudy sky with iron seesaws begging to claim another tailbone. Around the bend and into the long gravel driveway, the tired old wagon rolled. The trip from Saskatoon could be long and ended with a hard swerve to avoid a much-accursed birch stump that was always somehow forgotten when the tow chains were about, and the occupants of the tired old vehicle always spilled into the crisp Saskatchewan air with a sense of relief that was hardly dulled by the paling light of this particular evening. Up they went into the mobile home trailer they called their weekend home, hauling coolers and bags and shedding the worries of their mundane lives with every creak of the old wooden stairs. The growing winds stirred the ancient pines that hemmed in these hallowed, if somewhat shabby halls, but did little to disturb the peace of the blanket of browning needles sewn beneath them. Scarce could these trees be still again before the steel screen door of the mobile home erupted with an echoing bang. It issued a scrawny young boy, no more than 10 and all buck teeth and protruding ears, armed with an ancient fishing pole and hand-me-down tackle. Behind him, a tired father, similarly armed but somewhat less in the spirit, followed his son's crunching footsteps down the drive. He had very little to worry about, for his son knew well the route and could follow it dead blind in the darkest night. Around the bend, past the whispering pines, weaving through the seesaws and the merry-go-round, the little boy ran, straight down the beach to the public boat launch and the steely gray-green waters beyond. This was the only place on Earth the little boy at this time had ever been taught to fish. He'd cast and retrieve, sometimes losing a bent old red and white lure to the weeds out left in hopes of luring out a particularly stupid or bored young pike. And all the hours spent would go by in the blink of an eye, pockmarked by excitement every time there was a hit on the line, or a sufficiently convincing snagging of the weeds. And it was the same on this gray summer day, the little boy doing his best not to further aggravate his sighing father, casting and retrieving. Cast and retrieve. There's a glimpse of sudden movement and a shadow beneath the darkening waves, catching the boy's eyes, and his heart all but stands still. There was a shape, a gray shape, lighter enough than the surrounding pallor to stand out starkly in the water, as big as the steel pontoon boat the boy had spied in awe on the water 2 weeks prior, moving quickly through the waves. The boy froze, any fear of his lure sinking and snagging forgotten, as he watched the gray shape sink sibilantly below the water and disappear from sight. Frozen still, he stood with his heart hammering in his ears. The boy knew well enough that fishing time was a period of sacred silence, and he dared not further tease his father's already fraying nerves. Suddenly, the boy remembered his hands and hastily spun the reel handle to retrieve his now distant lure. It wasn't until much later, during a secret confession to his sisters that fell within earshot of his mother, that she told the boy that he might have seen the Turtle Lake monster. She told him it was a mysterious creature who lived in the depths of the little green lake. Upon their return to the city, she even showed her son the book about the creature and the news clippings about its near sightings in the 70s and 80s, claiming that the legend of the creature reached back to the myths of the local Cree people. The Turtle Lake monster, with its gray body and seahorse-like head, is a common myth, she said, and many fishermen along the lake had seen it peek up near their boats and disappear in a flash throughout the decades. The prevailing theory was, and still is, that the monster is a giant sturgeon that made its way up to the lake during a flood of the nearby river system and took up residence in its deeps. More fanciful stories were that it was an ancient plesiosaur, a lonely survivor from the prehistoric times when all of Saskatchewan was a shallow sea. Whatever the creature's origin, the little boy's mind was set. He had seen the monster, and no one could convince him otherwise. Years later, that boy would wish he'd known at the time about the mundane distractions that would cause his family to leave Turtle Lake and its monster behind them. He'd have relished every subsequent cast from that dock that much more, even if they were made with a wary eye trained on the deeper waters. But when we're children, these things are out of our control, and the beauty of our youth is in the fleeting, forgetful innocence with which we experience these things and then forget. There are, however, always those things that sink their talons into our hearts to remain throughout the years. I didn't return to Turtle Lake until I was a young man, a greenhorn road management intern charged with supervising the application of dust control projects for the resort towns and reserve around the lake's shores. I relished the opportunity to visit my childhood haunt and snuck away from our distributor rig to follow the familiar path one last time. When I got there, the old road into Moonlight Bay welcomed me like an old friend, so I followed. Around the bend, past the whispering pines, gazing past where the seesaws and merry-go-round used to be, I looked down the beach to the steely gray-green waters beyond. Despite the sun overhead, a cold chill ran down my spine, and I knew, deep down, I knew. I still believe in the Turtle Lake monster.
This is Postal Poet. I've been asked by our friend Ood Gallifrey to do the after show, and I would like to do so by reading one of my poems for the Halloween season. This is called The Graveyard. In a graveyard I was treading, knowing not where I was heading, but I knew that I was dreading what I'd find when I arrived. There were gravestones all surrounding. Their sheer number was astounding, and the shadows were confounding me with forms they had contrived. The deep silence was pervading, and the darkness was degrading, and it seemed to be invading deep within my weary soul. Then I heard a church bell pealing, and I felt a sense of healing, but my sense of hopeless feeling had begun to take its toll. In the distance, shining brightly, in a moonbeam quite contritely,
stood a headstone crooked slightly in the ancient hallowed ground. Nearer to it then I drifted. Suddenly my vision shifted, and my weary eyes were lifted to lock on to what I'd found. As I began loudly screeching, and I cried out my beseeching, my hand held out, ever reaching for that ancient marbled stone. I knew then what happened to me, as the madness thundered through me, and the darkness poured into me. For that name there was my own. We'll see you next week, and have a happy Halloween.